What up, guys, and welcome back to Thomas Reacts here on the 360 experience with myself, Thomas Mabaso. As we go to 2024 election, the one thing that really caught the people's attention is the number of political parties that we have in the country right now, because we have so many political parties right now. I cannot even keep up. I'm sure even average South Africans cannot even keep up with the number of political parties that we have in the country right now. So this whole thing of political parties mushrooming out of everywhere has caused a debate in the country, because I've heard some people saying that we don't need so many political parties, we already have enough political parties. But there are other people saying that no, we need other political parties, man. If the political parties that we have today are not providing anything, so we are within our rights to open up this new political party. So guys, according to you, do you think that it is healthy for South Africa and for our democracy to have so many political parties, or do you think that we should work with what we have, man? That is my question to you guys. Do you think that it is healthy for South Africa to have so many political parties? Do you think that is healthy? Or you think that, man, we don't need other political parties? We already have enough political parties in the country right now. And I'm saying that people are debating about this whole thing because I've heard people saying that these guys, especially who just formed these new political parties, the one issue that people have with them is that they don't want to be led. It's almost as if everyone wants to be the leader. Everybody wants to be a leader, and it is one thing that the leaders of these political parties don't see. They don't listen to South Africans when they say that, because South Africans are saying that if you cannot be led, how can we trust you to be a leader of your own political party? So guys, the question remains, do you think that in the country we need so many political parties, or do you think the whole thing is unnecessary, man?
Welcome back. So to continue our conversation, Mr. Zibi, your party, riveting, has launched to much fanfare. But from the perspective of a voter, this is quite confusing. The number of parties is almost rising to the point of absurdity, is it not? Is this not just a confusion for the average voter in South Africa for 2024?
Good evening, Sizwe. So there are two segments of voters in South Africa. There are those who vote and those who don't. 30% of them vote, at least in 2021, and 70% of them didn't. The first thing we have to ask is why it is that so many people who are eligible to vote do not vote in South Africa at all. Because if the logic, as the insert appears to suggest, that is the fragmentation that is the problem, then you'd still have more people voting, but that landscape being very divided. What is clear is that there is something that the political establishment as we have it is not providing to society. And I think there is something fundamentally wrong even with the political proposition anyway. And that proposition is to say we're going to center the whole of society on the idea of a political party that is going to solve all the problems for everyone. But the problem with our society right now is not even so much that we've got load shedding and crime and so on. It is a complete disintegration of the very idea of South Africa.
But do you not have...
But Songezo is not answering the question, man. Do you think that having so many political parties is confusing to South Africans? Do you think that South Africans right now are confused with so many political parties? Because I remember even last week when Xaluva did that interview with McG and Sol Penduka, the one thing they questioned him about the logo of his own political parties, because the logo of Xaluva's party are the same colors as the logo of the African National Congress. And the name, it sounds similar because it's African National Congress, and Xaluva's party is African Congress for Transformation. So are you not confusing people right now? That is the whole thing, because I'm telling you, people are confused right now. This is why I said that people are going to go back to the African National Congress, and people said that I'm an advocate for the ANC. But these are the same reasons why people are going to go back to the African National Congress, because people do not trust politicians as a whole. People don't trust politicians as a whole. They don't trust our political. They don't trust anything when it comes to politics, and that is the reason why people are not going to the polls to vote, because they want nothing to do with politics. But when it comes to people who are actually interested in voting, these people, they might as well go back to the African National Congress, because they don't trust you guys. They don't trust you. And one thing that these Monanyana political parties are not talking about, they are not showing us the data that, okay guys, we've had so many people who were not who were eligible to vote but they didn't vote last time, and these people have now registered to vote. Where is the data? Please guys, show us the data. Where is that data? Because you are not showing us the data. You are still fighting for the same numbers that have been fought on, that have been fought over during the general election. So you are not going out there and making people who are not even interested in voting to go to the polls to vote. That's not what you are doing. And these political parties that are mushrooming out of nowhere, like people don't trust these political parties, man. I'm telling you, and these guys are seen as scams because South Africans right now are looking at politics through the lens of the African National Congress. So when you come and say that you want to open up a new political party, the first thing that comes to people's mind is the African National Congress. He just wants to be another comrade. This guy, he just wants tenders so that he can steal and loot. That's how South Africans are seeing politics right now. And these smallanyana political parties are not taking this chance to actually educate South Africans about the importance of voting. No, they are not pushing that. They just want people to go to the polls and vote for them. But I'm telling you, the people who generally go to the polls and vote for you, they don't trust the smallanyana political parties. And people say that I'm an advocate for the African National Congress. Man, I'm not an advocate for the African National Congress. I am not an advocate for the African National Congress, but I'm telling you that South Africans, when they get to the polls, they're going to put an X next to the African National Congress before they even think about putting an X next to Xaluva or one of these parties.
Have any sympathy for standing from a voter's perspective and seeing all these different names, all these different messages, when it might be more effective to combine these efforts into one more powerful effort?
The question I would ask is under what principles? I think what you are saying.
What do you mean under what principles, man? You all want to fix South Africa. That's the thing. You guys don't want to be led. Everybody wants to be a leader. That is the whole problem with our political landscape right now in the country. Everyone wants to be a leader. That is the reason why these people, they have so many political parties, but when you listen to their policies, most of these political parties are the same. But the issue is that the leaders of these political parties, they don't want to be led. So that's why they are opening up their own political parties. That is the whole thing. Nobody wants to be led.
Is the outcome of a situation where politically people are losing faith in the democracy. And I guess the question is to ask is whether we at Rise Mzansi, are not also searching for the same answers that voters are searching for. Because before you become a political party, you are a voter first. And you share the same frustrations that the 70% have got. And you ask yourself, what is the answer to this conundrum that we have? So I think the analysis sometimes begins in the wrong place, but fundamentally is why are so many people losing faith in the democracy, including myself as a voter, and therefore what is the answer? The answer might lie in the fact that the political establishment is itself not answering that question because it is formulated and cultured in a particular way that does not resonate with voters. And I think it's an important political and social project to look for an alternative way of doing politics that might resonate with more people.
Well, the charge is that, and I'll put this to the other guests as well, is that you are unable to be led, each of your parties. You're unable to subsume yourself within a bigger project, and so egos have taken over, and each formation with a roughly similar program has decided to go it alone. What do you say to that charge?
Man, that is true, man. These guys, they don't want to be led, man. That is the reason why, even till today, Musimeman has been questioned about Herman Mashaba. Musimeman, why are you not the part of the Action SA? And Musimeman was giving this vague answer why he's not a part of Action SA. But it is the whole thing. These guys, they don't want to be led. They don't want to be led. And I feel like Sizwe Mpofu right here. I feel like Sizwe Mpofu, whenever he does these interviews, the one question that these political parties must answer is, how many people have you recruited that didn't vote in the previous elections, that have promised you that they are going to vote in the next elections? How many people have you recruited? People that said that, no guys, we want nothing to do with politics, we don't want to vote, I'm not even interested to vote. How many people have these guys recruited into their own smallanyana political parties? Because, like he said, the whole thing is the fact that people are not interested in voting. So if people are not interested in voting, what have you done to convince those guys who are not interested in voting to come and vote, and especially to come and vote for you? What have you done? As guys say, I mean, like, guys, honestly, it's 2024. Let's pretend like it's 2024 today, and you are going to the polls and to vote. Are you honestly going to vote for Rise, for Xaluva, and for Build One South Africa? Honestly, guys. Are you honestly going to do that? That is one question I feel like these guys are not asking themselves. If you were an ordinary South African, who loves to participate in the elections, would you go out there and vote for RISESA?
What I say to that is, let us assume, Sizwe, with a complete, utter lack of legitimacy that the ANC suffers from, I and my colleagues would have gone into the ANC. Do you think that would have excited voters back into the ballot to vote for the ANC? The answer is no.
Not necessarily ANC, but let's say...
Sure, any political party. I'm using the ANC as the Coca-Cola of South African politics.
Even a collaboration of the new entrants, let's say, for example.
No, sure, but under what principles? Principles, values, ideology matter. They really do. I think there is something called a moonshot coalition that is being proposed. Let's say we just do that. But that's still a portion of the 30%. Does the fact that you have that combination suddenly make it legitimate when voters already have pronounced that they don't want them?
Absolutely. Let me bring in our other guests. And Ms. Hlazo, what do you make of this charge that there's confusion, there are too many new entrants, and you might have been better served actually coordinating efforts under one platform, even if that's a new opposition platform?
Thank you, Sizwe, for having us this evening. Let me start here by saying that when we launched in September of 2022 as Build One South Africa. And when we launched, there was nothing in the political landscape at that time that was an expression of what we sought to do, which was to do something different in a number of ways, because it's very clear that what we have at the moment, the political party...
What are those things that you want to do different, man?
That we have at the moment, even the systems, even internally, under which they work, is not working for this country. You look around in this country and it's very clear that something is broken and something isn't working. So we were very clear that, first of all, we don't want to go and duplicate whatever's already there. We have to disrupt, and I come from a entrepreneurial business background, so we talk about disruption. So we have to disrupt what's there and start to do something different and start to think differently. One of the things that was critical to us is that, first of all, what we're doing is values-based. We're based on value. It's pragmatic. It speaks to the issues of South Africa. But most importantly, that it takes power back to South Africans.
You know what's funny about these guys, man? Everyone is sitting there that we are preaching the values. Everyone is sitting there that we are preaching the values. The values, it matters. But please tell the next guy sitting next to you, what are those values? And maybe you guys can work together instead of opening up separate political parties. But that's not what you are doing. You keep saying that the political landscape didn't give you anything that you guys wanted. What is it that you guys wanted? And what is it?
Because we all sat in December, for instance, of 2022, held ransom by what will happen, what outcome will come out of the ANC electoral conference. And what you want to make sure of is that South Africans feel that they have a bit more participation, not just when they vote once in 5 years, but they have more participation in the electoral system and in the governance of the country.
Can I ask you on that? So,
yeah.
Okay, let's assume there was nobody like Bosa before. That doesn't mean that after Bosa's emergence, you couldn't have spoken to new entrants and said, actually, let's do this together.
Fact.
So is that a fair argument when, in fact, you could still have done what some are proposing even after your emergence?
So absolutely, we exist and we're doing something different. We're doing a model that's different. We're saying to communities, you choose your leaders. And so we are open to other political parties that say, let's work together. Values have to be the same, principles have to be the same, and we have to be able to test the collaboration and to test that that's true. So we've never been close to that, even after. So we're the ones that have come, we did something different, and so we're open to others who come after and say they also wanted to do something different, to have conversations and to see if there's a meeting of minds in any kind of way.
Don't you think everybody is about pragmatism? Everybody is about integrity?
Exactly.
Avowedly, everybody is about those.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Everybody's about integrity. Everybody's about fixing South Africa. Everybody's about stopping crime. Everybody's about fixing the state-owned entities. Like
kinds of values that you espouse?
Absolutely. So those who are, we're open to the discussion. So if that's what you're about, and we've openly said this is what we're doing, this is what we've presented to the country, and we've said this is what we're doing. So we're open to the discussions. We've always been clear right from the outset that we're open to discussions and to collaborations of any sort that takes South Africa forward. At the end of the day, one of the things that we all have to remember.
And again, guys, you know these guys with the smaller political parties, the one thing that they don't understand is that South Africans are not even interested in talking about these smaller political parties. That's the thing. They keep talking about the collaborations that we can make collaborations with people who have the same values and the same principles as us and everything, but they are not talking about the voters. Are the voters interested in this whole thing of smaller political parties mushrooming out of everywhere? Are voters interested in that? Are voters today even debating the whole thing of voting for Bosa or voting for Xaluva or for voting for ForRISESA? Is that the debate that is taking the place right now in the country? You are not talking about the voters.
Is that we have to put South Africa first. We have to put South Africans first, and we always have to come back to what's best for that. One of the things that's non-negotiable for us is that in whatever we're doing, it's values-driven, and it always comes back to giving power back to South Africans, because the way it's worked now, it's really been stripped.
Mr. Baloyi, what do you make of the conversation so far and this theme of it's better to go together rather than fragment the opposition in 1,000 different directions?
Look, I think there's quite frankly a nonsensical argument. In fact, it's born out of a deeply held feeling of preserving space for those who currently hold that space. So if our opposition was united and doing so well, I think that the country would be in a very difficult position.
I mean, guys, Bongani Baloyi was in the Democratic Alliance, and he left the Democratic Alliance and he went to work with the Action SA, and he didn't even take long, and he dropped the Action SA. Now he has his own political party. Is he the problem? It feels like Bongani Baloyi is the problem, man. You can't work your shit out with the Democratic Alliance. You can't do anything with Action SA. And right now, you're going to open up a replica of the Action SA under the name of Xaluva. The thing is that you don't want to be led. That is the whole thing. You don't want to be led. These guys, they don't want to be led. That is the whole thing. Everybody wants to be a leader in this country. You heard that lady say, South Africans must choose their own leaders. These guys are seeing themselves as our leaders, man. That is the whole problem.
And difficult decisions that opposition should have made many years ago would have probably have been made. In fact, what you see is actually a re-energization of South African politics by a new crop of leaders that are emerging, and that are not emerging within the current status quo or set political parties, but are doing it outside of and becoming disruptors. So naturally, when a group of people who then pursue a venture in a type of direction, it's generally going to upset the status quo who believe it is their space. They have become comfortable. Majority of opposition people are...
That is the thing, Bongani Baloyi. You are worried about what the members of the African National Congress, what the executive of the DA is saying, or what the executive of the Economic Freedom Fighters is saying. You are worried about the fact that those guys are saying that, no, do not come to our space. You are interrupting everything, but you are not saying anything about the voters. You are worried about the leaders of opposition parties. You are worried about them, but you are not worried about the people on the ground. Because the people on the ground are the ones who are supposed to go to the polls and vote for you. And those people are the ones who are confused today by the rise of these political parties. So you should be taking your time to actually engage with the communities and engage with the people, and stop worrying about the fact that the people the gatekeepers in our political landscapes are worried about the fact that you have opened up your new political party.
Advanced argument are only loyal to their comfort only. So anything that seeks to disrupt this comfort becomes a problem, and then there is fear-monger this thing to suggest that we could...
Because right now Bongani Balo is talking like South Africans are in favor of this whole thing of political parties, of so many political parties. Guys, I'm going to ask you again, are you in favor of these smallanyana political parties popping out of nowhere? Or do you think that we can work with what we have, man? And do you think that we need more politicians in our space? So do you think that politics is one thing to really solve our problems? Do we need more politicians in South Africa?
Be better in one or whatever. And even if you can look at our value proposition of all three political parties, you'll identify the similarities, but there's also a specific focus in a specific demographic. So I actually see that it's easier for us to find each other post the election once we've focused on a specific demographic and come together, because this new set of leaders here can easily find each other. And in fact, we really want to advance the country forward. So I really see that type of reasoning as nonsensical, but equally suggesting how big a risk such movements are to the body of politics in South Africa.
So you say it's nonsensical, and I hear the point about the existing opposition, but I think the question before us is the new entrants. Is it nonsensical to expect the new entrants to have come under one umbrella, or
no, it's not.
Or not? Because I think that is the real question. Sure, there are other political parties where you do seem to disagree quite sharply, but the offering does seem to be quite similar with the new entrants that are here tonight.
I think it's similar in some instances, but very different in areas of focus. And we would argue strongly that our areas of focus specifically is a demographic between the ages of 18 and 45. And that demographic is largely unemployed and unemployable, and in majority. And that demographic, if they have parents, Stats SA tells us that their parents is single-parent households, really, and it's largely black women who suffer the most. So we really are focusing on a specific demographic, voting demographic, which is the biggest voting demographic.
There's nothing specific about that demographic, man. All the new political parties are talking about the same demographic that you are talking about. There's nothing special with your party focusing on that demographic, because all the political parties are focusing on the same demographic. You can ask the same people who are sitting next to you. Those are the kind of demographics that they are.
And by also indicating that in these conversations, and I've had the fortune of being part of these conversations or an observer about coalition agreements, and what you find is never an expression about their people. The point of departure all the time is what belongs to us, what must we do, which position, what budget, and who do we keep out. And I always thought to myself, but who really gives a thought about the young people there, or an agenda that informs government? So there's always contesting issues of positions and power and budgets, and which the government really does not coordinate its entire effort towards dealing with those.
And we are going to come to coalitions, because that's something I really want to speak to, and I think you've all spoken about before in interesting ways. But I guess on this theme, the last thing I'd want to ask is, you say after the election it's better to come together, and that gives rise to a suspicion that in fact this is one thing, but it's presented to voters as different options.
Exactly.
And then suddenly after the election we'll see a coming together. Wouldn't that be a way of confusing voters and not being transparent about the intentions, if the ultimate intention is just to come together after the election anyway?
This is the same thing that I was talking about when political parties going around saying that we're not going to work with certain political parties, but after the elections and after the votes have been counted, the same guys are going to negotiate with the same guys. Everyone is going to be negotiating with everyone. I mean, like right now, when you hear the Democratic Alliance saying that we are never going to work with the African National Congress, but I'm telling you, After the elections and after the votes have been counted, everyone is going to be negotiating with everyone. So I don't believe these guys when they say that they are not going to negotiate with everyone. And if coming together was the whole purpose, why don't they come together before the elections? What is so hard for them to come together before the elections? Yes, everybody, they want to be a leader. Everybody wants to be a leader. That is the whole problem with these guys, because they have the same policies. Most of them, they follow the same policies, but they can't come together. They cannot come together. That is the problem with these guys.
Well, the fact that no one will get 50+1% of the electoral vote will force people to have conversation, which will also introduce for the first time, at least in our lived reality, in our democratic dispensation, a coalition at national government and some provincial governments. So it's going to force people to talk to each other. So that's something that's inevitable in any case, because we have to have that conversation around government and how we engage with each other and what are the core values that we can agree on and how do we approach this thing called the state. Beyond just the position and the finances attached to it and various other things. So I think the situation that will give birth as a consequence of voters speaking, because I believe that voters will be animated in different segments by these various offerings because they were not there. And the most exciting thing is how these three different institutions have pursued three different ways of launching themselves as political parties, and they're finding expression and following in the market, which for me is an indication that what we're going to see in 2024 is actually going to upset a lot of people and most of the status quo.
So guys, what are your thoughts, man? What are your thoughts about this whole conversation? Because I think going forward, it's not what I was interested in. So what are your thoughts on this whole thing? Do you think that we need more political parties in the country right now? Do you feel like we don't have enough political parties in the country? Do you feel like South Africans, they don't have an alternative right now? What are your thoughts? Or do you think that it's enough? We don't need more political parties in the country. Guys, please tell me what are your thoughts. Please drop those comments and don't forget to hit that like button. And the most important part, guys, please subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, these guys.